Welcome to the road to 1 million US dollars. Let's get right into the Bitcoin chart for today, starting on this 4-hour time frame for Bitcoin, because right now we have actually lost this ascending line of support that I have talked about over the last couple days. Now, as soon as we broke this here, we saw a bit of a wick to the downside to come grab a bunch of liquidity. We then came back up to retest this level and actually flipped that from support into a level of resistance, after which we saw another rejection in the short term. And I mean, if you look at this on the 1-hour time frame, this wick up to this trend line here, this has to be the most accurate trend line I've drawn in a minute. This might be like on the exact dollar where we actually got that resistance. So now if we look at this descending trend line that has emerged, you can see that, well, we broke above this, and now we are currently holding this as a level of support in the short term. If I'm just looking at this chart here objectively, typically a break of a trend line like this is not a bullish signal. It is typically some kind of warning signal where, yeah, it might be the start of some kind of reversal. You can also see that, I mean, if you want to be bullish, at the very least, you should be waiting for some kind of break of this trend line on the 4-hour time frame, because until then, unless we break this, guys, we are simply going to be making lower highs over and over again for Bitcoin. So that is something to watch out for. The only thing that is making me kind of question here of if we are actually going to see that bigger move to the downside is the fact that we have the FOMC meeting later today. I'm recording this before the FOMC meeting. And I mean, if we get some very bullish news there, then yeah, that might actually change the whole situation where you actually see a sharp spike further to the upside and just break through this resistance like nothing. So that is usually something to watch out with these big kind of economic news events. Expect volatility, expect fake outs in the charts here. And yeah, that is just something I wanted to say ahead of time. Be very careful with high leverage around the time of the FOMC meeting. You can just look up what time it is in your time zone. So that's just something to be cautious with if you're leverage trading right now. Anyways, if we take a quick look at this ascending channel pattern for Bitcoin, again, we have just been playing this perfectly. We were bullish this whole way up here. And then exactly when we were at this resistance, we became a little bit more cautious, right? You saw that in the videos as well over the last couple of days. And then, yeah, we ended up perfectly finding resistance here in the market. Currently, we're back in the middle of this ascending channel pattern. And I know that you guys who have followed me for a long time here, whenever we were in this descending channel on the 1-day time frame, you know that I kept saying over and over again, like, hey, we're at the top of the range here, for example. Be open to the possibility of reaching the bottom of the range. And the funny thing is, guys, and this is a lesson you can take away from the market participants who were trading in this time here in about August or so, whenever we were at the top of the range, no one believed it was possible to go to the bottom of the range again. And then when we were at the bottom of the range, no one believed it was possible to go back to the top of the range once again. Now, I'm serious when I say that this is a lesson to take away from that period of time, because right now, as I'm seeing it, we broke below that ascending trend line that I talked about earlier in this video, and therefore we should simply be open to the possibility of reaching the bottom of the range. Currently, as I'm recording this video, it is sitting at about 98,000 US dollars for the Bitcoin price. Now, this is not a call or me predicting that we need to go down there, but I'm just saying, so long as we're not breaking that descending trend line, then we are simply trending in that direction, and therefore we should be open to the possibility that Bitcoin could do something like that. Now, let's talk about the bull case here, because am I saying that, let's say 108K is the cycle top for Bitcoin, that it's impossible for us to go higher? Am I saying that we need to get some kind of a massive crash here? No, I am not saying any of those things, because as far as I'm concerned, guys, so long as we are trading in this range, we are simply in an ascending channel pattern. So this is technically just bullish for Bitcoin. And like I said, so long as we're trading inside here, even if we literally do this until the end of time, we will just be making higher highs and higher lows for Bitcoin, which is a bullish structure and is trending upwards. Now, yes, of course, if we lose this ascending channel pattern and we lose that level of support, then we can start looking for much more bearish price action for Bitcoin. But until then, I don't see a reason to be long-term extremely bearish here. And of course, the most bullish case would actually be just reversing right now, potentially on that bullish FOMC news and breaking the top of this resistance. As I'm recording this, The resistance is sitting at about 108,000 US dollars for the Bitcoin price. And look, guys, if we are breaking the top of this range, that has to be the most bullish outcome here, because at that point, there is no previous price action or price history in those areas. So we're in price discovery at that point. And then we would have to start taking some kind of like fib retracement, looking for potential price targets up here. But you can see how quickly those numbers go up, right? So that's just something to keep in mind. If we break the top of that range, that would be the most bullish outcome. Now, let's talk about the Bitcoin liquidation heat map. First of all, on this 2-week time frame, around this level here, which is where we broke that ascending line of support, we took out a big level of liquidity, close to $300 million worth of long positions wiped out there. And then we just kept dipping after we lost that level of support, grabbing a bunch more liquidity to the downside. And right now, to the downside at least, most of the liquidity is sitting at about 101.7K, where again, we have close to $300 million worth of Bitcoin long positions there. And actually, before I continue with the liquidity, we do have a CME gap at about 102.3K. So again, that's why I'm open to the possibility of more downside just to come and fill this CME gap here. Now, of course, the situation can completely change after the FOMC meeting. I will talk about that in tomorrow's video. But until then, guys, make sure to understand that there is that CME gap sitting at 102.3K. Coming back on this 3-day time frame now, you can see that most of the liquidity is to the downside at about 102.7K. So this is going to be an important level to watch. If we end up sweeping that level at about 102.6K, basically that CME gap, be on the lookout for a potential reversal there, because at that point we would have swept the liquidity to the downside in the short term. We would have filled the CME gap as well. So that would be an interesting time to be watching the charts for a potential reversal. So I'm not saying we need to reverse. I'm just telling you that it is something to potentially look out for. Next, moving on to the Bitcoin ETF flow tables. Yesterday, we got another massive inflow into the Bitcoin ETFs, close to $500 million worth of net inflows. And you can see that literally all of those inflows came from the BlackRock Bitcoin ETF, where they actually saw $740 million worth of inflows, and the other ETFs were actually net neutral or net sellers on that day. So yeah, I mean, BlackRock ETF investors are just going crazy with their accumulation right now. And so long as the Bitcoin ETFs keep buying hundreds of millions of dollars worth of Bitcoin every single weekday, then obviously this is going to have an upwards pressuring effect on the Bitcoin price. Now, before I close off today, if you want to learn more about technical analysis and leverage trading in general, I've created a free trading course that you can watch on rt1m.com. So yeah, if you're interested in that, simply go to rt1m.com or check out the link in the video description. Earlier today, I actually asked my community to write some reviews if they followed the course. And so far, from what I can see, people are very satisfied with the course. So yeah, that also makes me a little bit proud, and I wanted to share it here in the video. And hey, if you've already followed the course and you enjoyed it, I would really appreciate it if you can give a review. I will actually leave the link to this in the comments down below. So yeah, thanks in advance if you're going to do that. But regardless, if you do end up leaving a review or you do end up checking it out or not, thank you for watching once again, and I will see you tomorrow in the next one.